1, 2.
Welcome to the Clarinet Ninja podcast. My name is Jay Hasler. As always, I'm doing my best to bring you the finest in clarinet information and entertainment. Today on the podcast, I've got two of my very closest friends, Josh Gu and Lynne Snyder. Josh Gu, you might know from Quick Start Clarinet. Great program, great YouTube channel, great clarinet teacher. We also have Lynne Snyder. Great clarinet player, great clarinet teacher. Her internet personality is Queen Reed. And Queen Reed has been on a bit of a hiatus, but I heard she's coming back. So we're going to be looking for that. All of us, we're going to be looking for that. I can't wait to see it. And just let me say right now, if you haven't liked and subscribed, left a comment, 5-star rating, would you please do it? It really does help this get out in the world, and I would love it if people could hear the joy, the fun, and really indulge in the clarinet the way we do here at the Clarinet Ninja. So no further ado, we're talking to Josh Gu, Lynne Snyder. We're talking about things you can get at different price points for your clarinet, things you can do to help your clarinet playing life, and just having a good time talking about things that have been successful for us and for our students with the clarinet. Enjoy. Lynne, Josh, it's so good to see you. How are you?
Great to see you. Great to see you.
Yeah,
so we're going to solve some problems today. And those problems are, if you got a little bit of money to spend, or a medium amount of money to spend, or a large amount of money to spend, what are some good ideas to treat yourself to with a clarinet product, an accessory, things that are going to really move the needle on your experience playing the clarinet? And so let's go with the sort of like our sort of lowest category. We haven't really figured out exactly like what price, but if someone's going to buy an accessory of some kind, let's say $100-ish, something like that. I'm curious to know, Lynne, has there been a product that has changed your life that falls in this sort of category?
Okay, I'm going to start out with a concept, and it's like not a single thing. It's like, I think you have to elevate your reed game, right? Like if you've got $100, I want to see you elevate your game on reeds. Okay, so this could be like, okay, well, let me just show you what I have. So what I have is like the Tupperware. And the Tupperware is great because we're going to look in here for just a minute. It's like digging through my purse. It's scary, but really informative. So we're going to dig through the Tupperware, and here's what you find. Like I've got one kind of reed case. This is like the Brad Behn Reed Case. This is great. You can put like your little humidity pack in there. That's another reed changer is to have humidity packs. You can have all kinds of reed cases. You don't have to stick to just one. You can keep your cork grease in there. You can keep your earplugs in there, wear your earplugs in rehearsal. You can keep tweezers in there. I can't tell you how many times we need tweezers to like poke something in, poke something around. So I'm going to say for the accessory level, like $100, get thyself a Tupperware or other suitable case to hold your reeds. Put your little humidifier packs in there. That's what I love these Bovedas. Yeah. 49% humidity works for me out here in Southern California. And they make my reeds just consistent, predictable, all the things that you want. But then like the piece de resistance in my reed case really is my reed geek. And this is what I think is like this is the game changer for me. So if you don't know what this is just like a little piece of metal that is sharp on different sides in different ways. And you can use it to like adjust your reeds. You really don't have to know a ton about adjusting your reeds, but like if you just want to flatten the backs of your reeds, just run the blade over the back of the reed with this little tool. I think they're like maybe $60 or $70 in that price range. But that's kind of the game changer for me on the accessory level, is to up the reed game.
No, I think that you make some good points. One of the things I'm most interested in is the tweezers, because not only is that good to like pull screws out and do things like that if that needs to happen, but oftentimes, as somebody with bushy eyebrows, I do show up to work sometimes and there's one going crazy. Yeah. And I can't do anything about it.
You can't have that. You can't have your eyebrow touching your glasses. That's really annoying.
I agree. Now, but my big question about it, Lynne, and I hope you're ready for this, is how do you transport that? Does that fit in your clarinet case?
Okay, no. It does not, it
Okay.
does not fit in my clarinet case. Okay, we're on the con side of the list now. So we just talked about the pros. The con side is then you are carrying some other bag with you when you go to rehearsal. However, if it's like in my purse, right, in my backpack, in my satchel, with my music, right, with my iPad, with anything, anything else that I'm bringing to rehearsal. And I just think that we need to look at, I'm going to throw a little shade here. I think we need to look at flute players who bring like mountains of things. It's like they're camping every time they come to rehearsal. And I feel like if they can carry like a 3-person overnight hiking backpack into rehearsal for their flute and their piccolo, then I can like, it's okay for me to have a bag that holds my little Tupperware for reeds. So that's where I'm going with on this.
Okay. So I'm curious to know if I have done something like that in the past,
Uh-huh.
and I have always had to carry like the cheapo 4 reed guard in my case because at some point,
Mhm.
if I don't have those reeds in my case, I will have no reeds.
Mhm.
Has that ever happened to you?
True, true. And yes, for that exact reason, I will often have like one of these,
Yeah,
like a
right.
four, or the old lava. They don't, it's hard to find them, but those old lavas,
The
the
metal ones?
lavas two-sided, you just stick them in
Yeah.
the barrel, or even, right on the padding of your case. Yeah. So having reeds in your case at all times, that is also great because I have walked out of the house without my reed box. And so my reeds are a little bit like chapsticks. Like I have them everywhere. They're in the house, they're like in drawers, they're in every bag I own has a chapstick. I kind of have reeds that show up in every bag I have. And it has never like I've never been unhappy to find a reed, an extra reed in a case or in a bag.
How do you feel when you find an extra chapstick in the bag? Do you feel like you please happy about that?
I feel very happy about that.
Okay.
Yes, I feel very, very gratified.
Now I need to present mine immediately after Lynn's because my heart sank a little bit because I was going to suggest exactly the same Brad Behn Reed case.
It's a good
Right?
one.
It is good, and I want to go into a little bit of depth as to why it's so good.
Mhm.
And I'm not going to be able to show it on Zoom all that well. Maybe I'll take a picture of it. The reeds sit on rails, so that they're not actually setting flat on anything. And not only is the Boveda Pack inside the case, the reed isn't warping against anything. And I have found that my reeds don't warp when I put them in this case. I mean, like it's been years now, a year and a half, 2 years, and I've been incredibly. This has been the biggest game changer for me of any sort of accessory level thing. And when I first got it, I kind of I wasn't skeptical because I know Brad and I love Brad, but I was skeptical a little bit. Like, yeah, is this really going to make that much difference? And yes, it does. And then the other thing that it's in my eye line right now, right off screen. Um, I want to share this with you, Josh, because you changed my life a little bit. Because you got the world's slipperiest cork grease from Mike Lowenstern, and I said, let me try that. And I put my fingers in it, which automatically I don't want it because I got to put my fingers in it. Like I don't, because when I'm actually about to play the clarinet, I don't want cork grease on my fingers. So I put it on my clarinet. I was like, oh, it's very slippery. It's very nice. And then about 4 weeks later, it was still slippery. It still was, and I thought, okay, you know what I need? I need some of the world's slipperiest cork grease from Mike Lowenstern. I'll leave his link in the description so anyone can get it. He's a great person to buy things for. He's a good person, runs a great shop, really doing his best to get things that clarinet players would want. I leave it here on my speaker so that I can grease my corks at home so I don't have any cork grease on my fingers at work, and it lasts for so long I don't need to do it very often. And that is, it's surprising like what a difference that sort of quality of life is to never actually need cork grease when I'm on the gig. I still have it in my case, but I don't actually ever end up using it now. The funny part of it is I went home and I was I'm on the airplane thinking about cork grease. I mean, talk about a nerd. And so I'm thinking about this cork grease. I'm like, I need that cork grease. But what
Yeah.
am I going to do? Like, go online, order like one cork grease from Mike Lowenstern? I mean, like, I felt ridiculous doing that. So thankfully, my friend Todd Marcus, who I just recorded a podcast with, was going to go visit Mike Lowenstern. And I said, listen, man, I need you to get me 3, because we were going to go out to dinner afterwards. I need 3 cork greases. I was texting him all day. Don't forget the cork greases. So I've got 3 of them. I think I'm good on cork grease for a long time. Yeah, for me, the Brad Behn Reed case and the cork grease are like the sort of accessory level things that can make a huge difference in how things work and what your clarinet life is like. What do you got,
Yeah.
Josh?
I have to say something really quick. So,
Sure.
Jay, have you considered the idea of putting a cork grease in every bag that you own, and then you'll always have one. You'll always find one.
Well, that's a great idea, except then I might be tempted to actually use it and get my fingers greasy.
Yes.
And then I'm afraid, I'm trying to treasure my relationship with this cork grease. And so I don't want to take it to a place that I feel any sort of conflict about it. So, yeah, so I love the idea, but sometimes when I'm sitting in my chair, my clarinet's out, I don't want to get up and wash my hands. Like I'm in the chair, I'm done. Like I want to sit there until it's time to go, and I don't want to get up and wash my hands. And I totally think that that's a first world problem, and still a problem. Right? Still a challenge for me. Okay, Josh, take it away. What do you have? What do you have for us?
Yeah, so first I'm going to flex a little bit on my reed storage situation. So I have in my case, well, maybe, in my case, just right in there, my 3 Leger reeds that are all the reeds that I pretty much ever play on. Just right there, always conveniently in the case. Which, if you're playing on cane reeds, definitely leveling up your reed storage and the humidity and everything is fantastic. And I was thinking on this kind of first accessory, my first thought also went to reeds. And I would say just spend money to get like a few boxes of reeds and have more reeds to try. I think that's a kind of common misconception that people will sort of have their box of reeds and try to get through the box of reeds before they buy another box of reeds, and that leaves you sometimes struggling with some not so great reeds in that box that you're just like, you hate to just throw them away because you paid for them, but also just working through them is sometimes kind of torturous. And maybe having them as practice reeds and getting experience with different reeds and trying out your reed geek on them is all good ideas. But at the end of the day, I think if you just work through more reeds, you're going to find more better reeds as well. So that was my first thought for sure at this level. But since both Jay and Lynne talked about reeds, I'll also go with the like totally self-promotional side of it as well. And say when it comes to playing, getting fancy new equipment is great and makes things a little bit better. And it's fun to have the shiny new thing that makes you want to get out your instrument and play. But also learning how to play the clarinet is very valuable and beneficial too. And maybe even before I go the self-promotional route, maybe honestly just taking a lesson could be extremely valuable. To spend $100 to take one lesson with a good teacher can be a total game changer. Or you could also get the next generation clarinet method at quickstartclarinet.com/nextgenbook, which is my clarinet method book, of course, which has the PDF. And I think there's over 160 videos in there explaining how to do everything and what the goal of it is. And there's timelines to kind of make it very step-by-step as well. So as kind of a broad idea, more reeds and invest some money in actually learning how to play the clarinet rather than just having more fun stuff to play with on the clarinet.
I think that's true. The thing that my question to you, Josh, you think there's 160 videos? You had to make those actively, right? I mean, you lost. I mean, I guess after 100, you probably lose count. Is that what happened?
Yeah, I did it at like the end of 2023 is when I put in the videos. If I'm remembering right, I think it's like 164 videos.
Wow,
in the
okay.
book.
It's a lot of work. I bow to your ability to complete a project like that. I mean, that's difficult to do. Yeah, no, and I think we'd all agree that like actually getting some direct feedback about your playing is definitely the most important thing. It's like the least tangible thing, right? In terms of when you're thinking moving forward in time. But then after you've taken the lesson or after you've spent the time with, you, me, Lynne, anybody, like it's very tangible what that is, what that does and how that moves the needle. Oh, my question to you is, what are those Leger reeds just floating around, or are they in a case inside the case? So do you use words because people begin to listen to this audio only as well? Like what actually were they inside your case?
Yeah, it's hard to see. I took a little like block of foam and kind of stuck that into just like the open compartment for like whatever they want you to store in the case in that compartment. And I took a little block of foam and then cut little slits in it, and then you can slide the reeds in so they don't move around at all when I'm moving around.
So what I'm hearing is that your reeds are held in your case in the same way that if MacGyver were a clarinet player, he would have his reeds in the case, right? That's what I got here.
Yeah, more or less.
Yeah,
Yeah,
of
yeah.
course. I think we've all played Legers at some point in our life. The challenge for me with Legers, with a regular reed case, a traditional reed case, is you're sliding the tip under something. And I found that if a Leger tip gets bent, game over. And so there's a huge risk in using a traditional reed case with a Leger reed. Like I always put them in one of the flat glass ones that folds over, and like I never did it where I stuck it in anything. Have you guys found that that's consistent with what your experience has been?
Yeah, absolutely. I will say too, it wasn't just my own pure genius that came up with this kind of way of storing them. It came from right before I switched to Leger. I got the Lomax Humidipro case, which is also another great reed case. Brad's are also very good, and they have the kind of the same idea where the tip is free, so it's not warping against anything, and it's humidity controlled and airtight. But in the Lomax ones, they have kind of a row of foam that you slot your
Okay.
reeds in, which is where I stole the idea from.
Yeah. Well, but the fact that you're willing to implement it yourself, that's the part that do you have a garage where you live?
Yes.
Oh, see, if I just had a garage, I could do stuff. No, I couldn't. I'm completely incapable of doing anything like that.
I think clarinetists are a crafty bunch, like in general. I think we're a crafty set. Yeah.
Well, have you built anything, Lynn?
Oh my gosh. I don't, I've built like IKEA things. I mean, is that what we're talking
No,
about?
I meant for the clarinet.
Everything I do feels like a hack of some kind, right? So I have used hair ties to hold my ligatures on, hold my reed on in place of a ligature, right? I've done things like that. We're using tape to hold a pad down, like painter's tape on my clarinet. Like all kinds of things have to happen when something goes wrong, at a rehearsal or at a dress rehearsal or anything like that. You just have to get crafty.
Years ago, I was sitting at dinner in between shows, and I came up with the greatest clarinet case design ever. And I dreamed, and I said it out loud to my foolish friends that I was with. I'm going to create a case that's so good, and it's going to be called the Jace. And 100 years from now, people are gonna say to one another, "I think a long time ago they used to call this a case." But
Yeah.
as one would expect, I've taken no action on this, and there's nobody in the future that's going to
Yeah.
say that.
Oh,
There probably never was going to be anyway, but can't fault the guy for dreaming. All right, so let's say you have you saved your money, or you're fortunate enough to have a few $100. What types of things should we
mm.
think about that would either be fun, make our clarinet playing better, make us look more beautiful while playing the clarinet? What do you think, Josh? What do you got?
So thinking about this with the few $100, that does get into where you can have some impactful equipment for sure. Definitely, when I was thinking about the kind of lower tier pricing too, when it comes to tangible equipment, it's pretty much just mouthpieces just reeds and maybe ligatures. You could get some decent ligatures for under $100, but like, does the ligature really make that much difference? Like,
Well, that's true. And ligatures, they didn't used to be a fortune, but the,
Right.
the ligature market has exploded. What's going on with that? Ligatures are super expensive now.
so thinking about like, yeah, maybe you could get a ligature that's not going to make that much of a difference, but with a few $100, that's where you can start to get into like mouthpiece territory for sure. And I think the mouthpieces are probably the most impactful, maybe second to the reed. I would
Yep.
probably put reed most impactful, mouthpiece second, because that's where the sound is happening and the vibrations there. So mouthpieces are a good thing to start exploring at that price range. And I think they don't get talked about a whole ton. I play on the Shedville mouthpieces, and I did a pretty thorough review where they sent me like all the models they have, and I played all of them and really quite enjoyed all of them. And they have nice kind of characteristic differences to them that I think actually align very, very well with what they say in the marketing materials, which is nice. So like the Umbra is their dark, like full bodied one, and that's completely how I felt on it. I'm currently playing on the SAV, which gave me just like a little bit more kind of flexibility and energy to the sound that I kind of liked. And I also really like that they have the different models in different tip openings. So if you like having an open tip, you can get an open tipped Umbra and still have kind of the qualities of an Umbra, or a closed tip Umbra and still have the qualities of it, but can more easily match the mouthpiece to the reed, which I think is cool and not super common amongst the different mouthpiece manufacturers.
let's all share whatever we think about the difference between a mass-produced mouthpiece, which I'm not throwing shade, but like a Van Doren is they're not hand finished, versus mouthpieces that are made by hand, and why somebody would want one versus the other. Anybody got any ideas? Anything they want to share?
I don't know. I think it comes down to like personal preference. So, and also kind of how much you want to start pulling your hair out over a mouthpiece search. I mean, I think a lot of us end up either trying really hard to not go down the rabbit hole and we go anyway, right? Or we're kind of successful at avoiding the rabbit hole, but the rabbit hole is there. Like the mouthpiece rabbit hole is there, and you can go down it pretty far as it turns out. Maybe I know from personal experience, maybe I don't. But but
You've heard from your friends, I'm sure.
yeah, yeah, I've heard it can be like this. Yeah. Yeah, I've heard you can spend years, of your life, trying to find a mouthpiece. That's just what I hear. But I will say this, it's a moving target, right? Because I'm talking about me now. We're changing all the time. Like what I want to play on now is different than what I wanted, 20 years ago in terms of like feel like the experience of it, like what kind of response I want, what I'm willing to put up with. So for example, for years I played the B40 Lyre, and there were things I really loved about it. But I eventually got to where like that feeling of resistance and blowback that you get, and I'm not sure how, I think might be where the baffle is or how it's designed. But the blowback was like, oh, I can't handle this anymore. I can't tongue fast anymore. I can't do all these things on it anymore. So I think when it comes down to like stock mouthpiece versus handmade, I think you've got to, before you go looking, I think you have to figure out what you think you might be looking for. Kind of like, so I kind of went in when I was ready to kind of move away from the B40 Lyre. I was like, well, what I need is something that sounds like lots of good core, but also less fight. Like I don't want to fight it anymore. So I think having that idea can go a long way. And then once you have the idea, stock or not stock, you can kind of find your way to it.
I'm looking for responses to this. I mean, I'll state this as my feelings, and I'm going to say it strongly, so disagree with caution. But like I think a beginner student, as a child or as an adult, should, as soon as their clarinet gets there, they should either have a Brad Behn Overture or a Clark Phobes debut mouthpiece, and
Okay.
just not use the one that came with it ever. And that should be everybody's starting place.
Yeah, and I guess when I mean stock, I mean like mass produced. I should say
Sure.
that differently
Yeah.
because I don't
But
like any of the stock. Like whatever came with your clarinet, please don't use that. I 100%. I love the debut. That one I know like a bunch of my younger students have that, and it is great. The Yamaha 4C is fine. Like those things that kind of get you out of your training wheels.
yeah, well, the Yamaha 4C is fine, but for the little expense of the Brad Behn or the Clark Phobes, it's might as well just go ahead and do it. But while we're on this topic, is there a way that you can delineate when somebody should move from their Brad Behn or Clark Phobes or 4C? At what point should they start to experiment with a new mouthpiece? I mean, I think the stock answer would be when the mouthpiece is holding them back. But what indicators do you get from students that the mouthpiece is holding them back?
First, with the kind of beginner mouthpieces, I also want to throw in the Bakun Protege into that. Is also a very good beginner mouthpiece. But yeah, I kind of am that. Yeah, the Bane, the debut, the Premier by height also, like if it's like the debut feels too expensive for a student, that can be also a good one to get by with. But yeah, definitely like don't play the mouthpiece it came with unless it's one of those mouthpieces that came with it.
Right.
As far as kind of when you need to move on, I always kind of feel like, even personally, not even from a beginner to intermediate level, but even as an advanced player, I personally feel like it's time to start thinking about mouthpieces when none of the reeds feel good. So you go through a lot of reeds, and you remember back in the day, like you would be able to find a handful of reeds in a box, or maybe two reeds in a box, and they felt good and were playable. But when you feel like you've gone through two or three boxes and you can't remember the last time you had a really good reed that felt really good, then it might be time to mix things up with the mouthpiece a little bit.
I like
Some
that.
sometimes when my reeds aren't working, I go to my box and I take out my tweezers and I shape my eyebrows a little differently.
Yeah.
Game changer.
Yeah. Or put some cork
Or
grease on your fingers. Yeah.
That's a good point. I mean, like reed's not working. If all of a sudden you can't get anything to feel good, and you're kind of doing the same thing that you were doing before,
Yeah.
something unknown has changed, and that unknown thing is you need to evaluate that. I think one of the ways for us, I mean, since we all probably all have 50 mouthpieces or more in our home, it's pretty easy to change mouthpieces and say, oh, wait a minute, got it. But if you don't, going to a shop and trying some mouthpieces is a great idea. Yeah, Lynn, do you have any indicators of when a student needs to change their mouthpiece?
Yeah. Like as a teacher, it's when they, as the student, are starting to pick up on nuances in their playing that they are becoming unhappy with. So part of it, it's like, if I don't know, maybe it's like food or wine or something. There's like there's a point at which you don't like, I don't know the difference between Mediterranean salt and French. I don't know. I'm making things up now. But there's like food nuances and wine nuances that sometimes I can't tell. I'm not the one to like venture into that. But once like a student is starting to pick up on some of their own playing, like, hey, how come I can't do this? Or how come it sounds like this? Or how do I sound like you? And sometimes they can't articulate it very well, but you can tell that they have a growing discomfort with what they sound like or how they feel when they're playing. And that's one of the early cues that comes from them that signals to me that they're ready. But a lot of times they don't know that they're ready. And we as the teachers are like, you need to break up with your mouthpiece. This is a dysfunctional relationship now. You need to go on and find something healthier for you.
Well, when you started talking about wine, I was really hoping that it was going to go a different direction. And
Yes.
you were going to say something like, let's get a bottle of wine. And eventually the reeds you start to accept them a little bit more. It's okay. And,
After the bottle of wine, you don't really care so
yeah.
much. So that is one way of eliminating the mouthpiece issue.
And this is unrelated, but some of the best advice I ever got is if you want to perform drunk, you have to practice drunk. Just throwing that out there, not suggesting it for anybody, but just saying that like, being drunk and playing can take a
Mhm.
whole bunch of different directions. So you do have to know what's going on ahead of time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. With the confidence that all your reads are
I want to throw in with the mouthpiece upgrade too, like the very like tangible point of also just look at your mouthpiece and see how it's doing. If it's like really beat up, if you can tell that like the rails are no longer flat, if there's dents and chips and stuff in it, then that's also a great time and great way to know it's ready for a new
Well,
mouthpiece.
and the suck test is always important, right? I mean, to make sure you read ceiling. If your read's not ceiling, it doesn't, yeah, game over, right? I mean, and then you do have to check a number of reads. You have to get your read geek out of your box and flatten it and make sure that you're actually getting good information. But that is like I've had some really really nice mouthpieces, lots of them. And there's one day all of a sudden I was like something's wrong, and my first thought is it's me. And then after thinking that for a couple weeks, I realized no, my mouthpiece is warped.
Mhm.
And if your mouthpiece is warped, you can't see it really. I mean, so for me, the suck test is always the way to go. Um,
Can you explain the suck test real quick? Because even for me, it like took me a second to remember what you
sure.
meant. So for listeners,
Um,
I'm sure they would appreciate that.
sure. I mean, we're going to pretend I have a ligature because I've got 100 of them, but not within arm's reach.
Do you
So
have a hair tie? That will work.
I don't, surprisingly, I don't use them very often. Uh, and on the other side of my head, there's actually no hair. So yeah, I mean, your reed's on and you put your mouthpiece on a big part of your hand and you suck in and then you get a pop. If it passes the suck test, which means that the mouthpiece is flat and the reed is flat. So the challenge with it is if your reeds suck and you're trying to put like it may not be your mouthpiece. Like you have to have a couple mouthpieces, a number of reeds, and try all that stuff. And you have to remember that it has to create a full seal on your hand. And I just want to say this is an M30 that I bought during the pandemic that I took off my floating shelf right above my camera, and a reed from Brad Bahn's Reed Case, totally dry,
Mhm.
that suctioned on my mouthpiece because this reed case is something. Thank you, Brad. I'm like a walking advertisement for Brad Behn. Yeah, so that suck test is important. It needs to suck for a couple seconds, right? And then pop. And the Reed Geek is the magical cure for that, because it used to be that you had to have a piece of sandpaper and a flat surface, right? Which is no good if you're actually at a rehearsal,
Mhm.
because that's, to me, the Reed Geek does a lot of things, but that's the one that I use the most. I know how long I normally play a mouthpiece before I switch.
Mhm.
Josh, what's the longest you've ever played a mouthpiece?
Oh, that's a fun question. Not including like when I was in high school,
No,
because
as a grown up, yeah.
yeah. I think it's been probably 3 to 4 years is the max, but it's not necessarily because I ever felt like the mouthpiece I was on was terribly worn out and desperately needed replaced. It was often more just because I wanted to experiment with something else
Yeah.
and have fun with something else.
What about you, Lynn?
Okay, so are we talking like a single mouthpiece or like a certain model that you just keep replacing?
Well, I hadn't thought about it, but I want to know both answers.
Okay. So single mouthpiece would probably be, I had a B40 lyre that I played probably for like 5 years straight, a single one, and I loved it. Um, and it did just finally kind of wear down, and I just needed to replace it, and I wanted to have a backup and things like that. Um, so I moved on, but there was something about that one that just was well suited to me, well suited to how I play. And in general, I was on the B40 lyre model for like a period of like 15 years probably.
Oh,
Yeah. That was one that was recommended to me when I studied with David Breeden, who was at the San Francisco Symphony. That was what, and he had pulled me off of what I was on before, which was a Gigliotti, which I loved. And he was like, "No, you should have something. I want something that sounds more like this." And he steered me in this direction. And then, yeah, so that was my longest, was probably that amount of time. Yeah.
well, in hearing you talk about it, and I'm pulling out the dumbest thing I possibly could, which is I played on B40s a lot. That's actually sort of the model. When a mouthpiece guy is saying, "What do you like to play?" I say B40, even though I haven't played on one in years. That's the the part that is most usable for those guys to figure something out. But I never played on the lyre. But now that I hear you talk about it, and I'm hearing the word spelled differently, LIAR, I want to play on a lyre. I would like my mouthpiece to be villainous in some way.
Yes.
And I'd never thought of that before. I would have definitely played on a B40 lyre had I thought of that earlier.
Yeah.
That would have made me feel very, very happy.
That's great. That's great.
Um, cool. So I think we derailed. Josh, were you talking about the mouthpiece? Then I can't remember who was talking about the mouth.
Yeah, I think I got us on the
Okay.
mouthpiece topic.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So yeah. So like I think mouthpieces. What would you say is the span of what a mouthpiece costs, Josh?
Oh, you can get as cheap as like $30.
Well, I'm talking about a mouthpiece somebody would upgrade from
Okay,
their
gotcha.
debut or overture. Yeah.
Yeah. That's an interesting thing too, because I adore Brad Bane's mouthpieces, but the price point for the Brad Bane mouthpieces are not like your first mouthpiece upgrade. That's your like, okay, I'm gonna get real serious about this, and I want I equate his stuff to like driving a sports car, kind of, where like it's very responsive and does all the things that you want, is awesome, but it's like you have to be ready to handle the sports car to make that investment. And so I think if you want a really solid mouthpiece, the Van Dorens are around 150, and those can be very solid. The Bakun custom signature ones that they're making now, the McGill and the Schifrin and those things, I think they're in the $200 to $300 range, and those are fantastic. The Shedvilles are the $200 to $300 range. So I kind of feel like $200 to $300 if you want something like really serious. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think we probably all have. I played on Van Dorens for a lot of my career, a lot of it, and I think they're fantastic. I think it's a wonderful company that's making a product that is very good at a price point that doesn't alienate people, for sure. Um, I have been playing on a Brad Behn mouthpiece for a year and a half, since Ireland in 2024. I guess that was the end of August. I think it's fantastic. But you're right. it's a price point that you can't say, hey, go from your beginner mouthpiece to this. Somebody needs to be at a place where their playing is refined enough that they know what they want. Like that's a lot of money to spend, but I think it is money well spent. I mean, I'm fully outfitted with Brad Behn equipment, and I fully endorse it. But it does come at a higher price. But Brad also makes a Prescott line, Prescott. I think it's Prescott. But that he has one that is like the mouthpiece I play. It's called the Prescott Dark. I'm not sure what the price point on that is. I know it's less than the one I am playing on. But I tried a couple at the convention this last summer. It was really, really great. Thank you, Lynne Snyder, Josh Gu, for talking to me about this. That's only part one. We have another half an hour's worth of material for you. Check it out next week. A special episode coming 1 week sooner than usual. So look for that, and we'll see you there.